All right, like the problem we solved yesterday with Adrian, we grouped together the money that Adrian spent and we added them together as negatives, and then we took the money he received for allowance and we made that a positive. We took the leftover and we added it to what he had in his pocket, and we were able to prove that's how much he started the day out with. Today we're going to do the same exact problem, but we're going to work it completely, totally backwards. Watch this. And you remember we started with this. At the end of the day, Adrian had $12 in his pocket. And you remember he met friends at the hobby store, 10 o'clock in the morning if I remember correctly, and spent $8 on materials for his RC car. Then, as you remember later that day, his mom gave him $10 for his allowance. And then finally, he and his best friend Samantha went to McDonald's for a shake. He spent $5 on the shakes. The question is, how much money did Adrian have at the beginning of the day? And this is how you solve this problem totally and completely backwards. We start with the $12 that he had at the end of the day. That's backwards. That's the end of the day, what he had at the very end. And now we're going to work backwards, and we're going to subtract the very first amount of money he spent. What I mean by subtracting is we have to add. We have to do the very opposite of what's in the story problem. Since he spent the $5, we subtract it from the total at the very end. But in this case, because we're going backwards, we have to do the opposite operation. So we have to actually add the $5. And that gives us $17. Now we need to take the $17 and do the opposite of what happened before he spent the $5. And that was he received $10 from his mom for his allowance. Well, if he received $10, you would add that, but we're doing the opposite because we're doing this totally backwards. So we're going to subtract the $10. So when we subtract the $10 from the $17, it gives us $7. Now that we have the $7, we have to go backwards even farther in the story. And what happened before his mom gave him the $10 allowance, he went with his friends to the hobby store and spent $8. So instead of taking $8 away, because we're doing it backwards, we're going to add the $8. So let's see what happens. So there we have it. The $7 plus the final $8 gives us $15. Now to prove our theory that he really started out with $15. We'll start from the beginning. Let's say he had the $15 that we figured out by working it backwards. The very first thing was he met his friends and he spent $8 on materials for his RC car. That gave him $7. Now, after he got the RC car materials, he went home and his mom later that day gave him an allowance of $10. So $7 plus $10 equals $17. Now, after his mom gave him the money, he then took his friend, Samantha, to McDonald's for shakes. And at McDonald's, he paid $5 for the shakes. So let's subtract the $5 from the $17 and see what we get. And there you go. $17 minus $5 is $12. And that's exactly what the problem said. At the end of the day, Adrian had $12 in his pocket. So he must have started his day out with $15 to end up with $12 after spending this much on his RC car materials, getting this much for his allowance, and then he and his friend going to McDonald's and getting a shake.